Ah, sit down, my dear. I've got a story for you, one that's worth your time. You see, life is full of moments when the heart gets heavy and our minds cloud up with emotions. Now, I'm not here to give you just another tale, but a lesson. A lesson on something many young people struggle with: the things we say during conflict, and how, once spoken, they can never be taken back. There's power in your words, even more so when you're angry. Trust me, I've seen it all. Let me tell you about Tom and Sarah. Now, they were a good couple. Really good. They seemed to have everything in order. The home, the family, the perfect little life. But even the best relationships can hit a bump in the road, just like an old car that's been running smoothly for years and then suddenly stalls. This is where the real test begins. It's not in the easy days, no sir. It's in the hard ones. The ones where your emotions get the best of you. It was one of those late evenings, the kind where everything is quiet, and yet there's this tension hanging in the air. Sarah, the woman who always seemed so calm, was standing at the kitchen counter. You know, chopping up vegetables for dinner, her mind not really on the meal. And Tom? Well, he was sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone, eyes glued to the screen. Neither of them was really looking at the other, but they could both feel the distance growing. Now Sarah, she'd had enough. She'd been holding on to something for a while, something she couldn't keep quiet anymore. And so, she spoke up, her voice a little more forceful than usual. Tom, I don't think it's right how you've been treating me lately. Tom? He didn't look up. He just kept scrolling, as if he hadn't heard her. But of course he did. He always heard. Sometimes, we just choose not to listen, don't we? What are you talking about? He finally replied, his voice a little thick, like he wasn't fully present, like he was somewhere else. But that's how it starts, my dear. That's how the disconnect begins. When we stop being present, when we stop really seeing the other person. Sarah didn't back down. She couldn't. You've been dismissing my feelings. Every time I try to talk to you about something that matters, you brush it off. You make me feel invisible. And Tom? Well, his reaction wasn't quite what you'd expect. He wasn't angry at first, no. He was defensive. He thought she was making it all about her. I'm tired, Sarah. I've got a lot on my plate. Can't you see that? He said, like it was all just too much to bear. But here's where it goes wrong, my dear. This is where both of them lost their way. Sarah, in her frustration, decided to speak from a place of pain. And that's what happens when you speak from hurt. It's not rational, it's not thoughtful. It's just raw emotion. Maybe I'm the one holding this relationship together, she said. And then, before Tom could even respond, she let the words fly. I'm not your mother, Tom. You don't get to ignore me and expect everything to be fine. Now, listen to me, child. Words are like arrows. Once they're released, they don't come back. And Sarah, in that moment, didn't just hurt Tom. She hurt herself too. She went too far, and she knew it. But in the heat of the moment, it's easy to forget the power you have over someone's heart. You think you're defending yourself, but in reality, you're just wounding both of you. Tom wasn't done though. He wasn't going to take it lying down. You always make it about you, Sarah. You're so caught up in your feelings that you can't see how much I'm dealing with. Ah, there it was. Both of them were speaking from their hurt, their frustrations, their unmet needs. But instead of talking about the problem, they were talking around the problem. They were too busy protecting themselves to protect the relationship. And that's when the worst thing happens. You stop listening. When you stop listening, when you stop hearing the other person's pain, all you're left with is defensiveness. And that's a dangerous place to be. But let me tell you, in that moment, neither Tom nor Sarah knew how much they were both suffering. The anger, the bitterness, It was like a cloud that hung over them, making it impossible to see the light. And when they were done, when the arguments were out there in the open, there was nothing left but regret. Now you might be wondering, why don't they just apologize? But here's the thing, it's not that easy. Once words like that are said, they sting. They sit there, lodged in the heart, and they don't go away quickly. Apologies? They're just the start of healing, not the end. Tom went outside, sat in his car, trying to figure out how to make sense of the mess. He was angry, sure, but there was something else in his heart too, a deep, gnawing regret. He knew that he hadn't handled it well. He had pushed Sarah away instead of reaching out. But like many of us, his first instinct was to shut down, to retreat. We all do it, don't we? When we're hurt, we turn inward. And Sarah? She sat there, replaying every word, every accusation. She knew she'd crossed a line, but how could she fix it now? She wanted to apologize, but the fear of rejection, the fear that it was too late, kept her stuck. But listen to me, child. When you're in conflict, when the world feels like it's falling apart, you've got to do what the Stoics always said. You can't control what others do, but you can control how you respond. Sarah, realizing this, took a deep breath and decided to be brave. She walked out the door in the dead of night, with nothing but her apology and her humility to guide her. Tom was in his car, still in the same spot, thinking it wasn't too late. He could still make it right. And when Sarah appeared before him, her eyes soft but full of determination, he knew it too. It wasn't too late for them. "Tom, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I spoke out of anger, and I didn't think about how it would hurt you. I should have listened more and reacted less." Tom looked at her, his heart heavy with both regret and hope. "I'm sorry too. I didn't handle it right. I should have listened to you, to your feelings, instead of shutting you out. You see, my dear, this is where the magic happens. When two people, even when they're both in the wrong, can recognize their mistakes, apologize sincerely, and choose to move forward with respect. That's when the real healing begins." Tom and Sarah learned through that painful night that words are powerful. They can either build bridges or burn them. They can tear down what you've built over years, or they can help you build something stronger. They chose to rebuild, brick by brick, and in time, their relationship grew even stronger than before. Now let me tell you, child, when you're in conflict, take a moment to pause, breathe, think. The Stoics believed in control not over others, but over yourself. In every argument, in every disagreement, you have the power to choose your words, to choose your reaction. Choose wisely. And remember, sometimes, the best way to handle a situation is not to win the argument, but to preserve the relationship. That's where the true victory lies. If you've learned something today, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope this story resonates with you. And next time you're in a conflict, take a moment to think. Your words, my dear, have power. You know, conflict is something we all face, every one of us. Whether it's with a loved one, a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, it's inevitable. We can try to avoid it, but it always finds a way to creep in. And when it does, our emotions can lead us astray. But as you get older, you learn. You learn that every conflict is an opportunity to grow, not just as an individual, but together. Now, Tom and Sarah, well, they didn't just fix things overnight. It wasn't all hugs and forgiveness right away. It was hard work. Because you see, while they made up that night, and the words they exchanged were meaningful, the real work began the following days, weeks, and months. And that's where the real lesson lies. In their time apart, They both took a step back and thought about the bigger picture. Tom, especially, had to confront a truth about himself he had been hiding behind his work, behind his phone, behind his distractions. He had been avoiding the hard conversations, avoiding her. It was easier that way, you know. Just ignore the things that make you uncomfortable and hope they'll go away. But as I've told you before, those problems don't disappear. They just grow bigger and harder to ignore. Sarah, too, had to reckon with her own actions. She realized that in her desire to be heard, she had used her words as weapons, not tools for communication. She had let her anger control her, let it dictate the conversation, rather than stepping back, listening, and offering compassion. What's the point of speaking if you can't truly be heard, my dear? That's the real question. Both of them started reading, reflecting, and trying to understand themselves better. They read about Stoic philosophy, not just because it was the fashionable thing to do, but because they wanted to understand how to live it. They learned that it's not about suppressing emotions, no, that's not it. It's about acknowledging those emotions, understanding them, and then choosing how you respond. Choosing peace over conflict, choosing connection over separation, choosing to see the other person's humanity instead of your own pain. One afternoon, not long after that night, Tom came home early from work. He found Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, writing. At first, he hesitated. Would she be ready to talk? Would she bring up the argument again? But as he stood there waiting, he remembered something he had read from Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So, instead of retreating, instead of avoiding the situation, he walked in and sat down across from her. Sarah, he began quietly, his voice steady but filled with sincerity. I've been thinking about what you said, about how I've been shutting you out. And you were right. I wasn't there for you. I didn't give you the time or space you needed. And I'm sorry for that. I want to do better. Sarah paused for a moment, looking up at him, her eyes searching his face for truth. And in that moment, she saw it. She saw not just an apology, but a commitment. Tom wasn't just apologizing because he had to. He was apologizing because he wanted to be better. He wanted to be a better partner, a better listener. And that's when she realized something profound. He wasn't perfect. No one is. But the fact that he was trying, that he was willing to confront his own shortcomings, was enough. It was more than enough. Thank you, Tom, she replied, her voice soft. I've been thinking about this too. And I've realized that I haven't been perfect either. I've let my frustration get the better of me. I've let my pain cloud my judgment. I should have talked to you, but I let my anger speak for me instead. There it was, the beginning of real healing. They weren't just apologizing to each other. They were acknowledging their own faults, their own mistakes. They were accepting the truth that neither of them was perfect, but both of them were willing to work at it, to build something better. Now, this isn't the kind of story that ends with everything neatly tied up in a bow. That's not how life works, my dear. Relationships, like everything else, take time, effort, and commitment. They work through their issues, and sure, they still had arguments. But now, when the words started to rise up in anger, they remembered the lessons they'd learned. They remembered that the most powerful thing you can do during conflict isn't to be the loudest or the most convincing, it's to be the calmest. It's to take a deep breath, to pause before you speak, and to ask yourself, is this worth it? And that, my dear, is the heart of the lesson. Words matter. They have the power to heal, and they have the power to hurt. We must use them wisely. In the heat of the moment, when the emotions are high and the words are sharp, it's easy to forget this. But if you can remember to pause, to breathe, and to think before you speak, you'll find that conflicts don't need to tear you apart. In fact, they can bring you closer if you handle them right. So, next time you find yourself in a heated argument, remember Tom and Sarah. Remember that in the quiet, in the reflection, in the willingness to admit when you're wrong, there is strength. Real strength, the kind that builds a relationship, not the kind that shatters it. You can't control the other person, but you can control how you respond. That's the Stoic way, my dear. Now, I've said enough for today. If you found any wisdom in this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button for more. Take care of your relationships, and remember, the true test is in the quiet moments when you choose to listen, to understand, and to heal. I'll see you next time.